Good morning, everybody, and I see everyone's starting to join into the session on this bright and frosty morning. We'll just give people a couple more moments to dial in and log in, respectively, and we'll just adjust your audio settings, if assuming you're content with what you can hear. Good. All right. I think we're pretty stabilized at about 30 participants on the call this morning. Probably a few others just to join yet. A very warm welcome indeed to everyone to day 3 of the Streetworks conference. And what a good last couple of days we've had on this cold and frosty morning for all. I have to say it's not just the weather, but of course the economic announcements continue to resonate around the media this morning from yesterday. Had some great conversations yesterday on digitalization, and also those super helpful workshops led by Alison Williams and Janet Chapman on policy, and James Thornton and James Camis. Thank you guys, on excavated waste. Remember, if you missed any of those yesterday, the workshops were actually brimming with attendees at nearly max capacity. Then we are running those 2 again at 2 and 3 p.m. today. So do sign in and log in for those today if you unfortunately had to miss them yesterday. In between times today, we've got at 11 o'clock today, we've got a really informing session on skills and training, and plotting the way forward on what, as an industry for the next 5 years, is how we see that developing. So please join in. Actually, we really do want your views, and we want you all joined in that debate. It's really critical to those who are already in the industry, or those who are indeed joining the industry. Today, as you see behind me, grateful thanks to our sponsors, Atkins and SKU-B, and we're hearing a little bit more from SKU-B later on today. First, some domestics for today. Yes, the session is being recorded, although as you'll see in a moment, it's an unusual session today. If you have got any points you want to raise as we're going through, please, as normal, put those in the chat tote, and indeed give us any thoughts as we go through. That would be really helpful. And I just want to remind you, when you are chatting or communicating in that in the chat tote, then don't be concerned. In terms of, this is very much a closed audience, internal audience today. As you know, today we had scheduled to have Baroness Vere on the call. In fact, she has late yesterday afternoon had to record something, as she's been called to parliamentary business all morning this morning, as you're probably not unaware, was likely to happen once the announcement was confirmed yesterday. So she's recorded about a 12-minute thing. It's pretty high quality audio and video, giving her perspective on the nature and status of Streetworks, which I think you'll be interested to hear. There are a couple of things I want to pick out of that afterwards. So for those who have got time, do stay on the call. There's 1 or 2 things which she addresses directly, which is worth us possibly just having a quick chat about, which I want to touch on. Good. All right. Well, look, without more ado, I think we'll get straight on to it, and welcome Baroness Vere to your screen. Okay, Joel, here we go. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. And I am truly sorry that I can't be with you live this morning. This week has turned out to be slightly different than I had in mind, but obviously lots of good work going on. So I hope that you'll accept my apology, and I would be delighted to join you at next year's conference. And you never know, perhaps that would be in person, which would be really great. But my thank you to all of the organisers for this fantastic event, and for just adapting so well to the ways that we find ourselves doing business nowadays. But at least we can still come together and talk about issues that are really, really important. And of course, look, the whole industry has had to adapt massively this year to deal with the unprecedented challenges brought about by the pandemic. And I know, if I think back to March and April, how extraordinary it was, and how works had to be cancelled or postponed, but actually a lot of people managed to keep going, and that was really appreciated. And also, I know that so many of you managed to change your working practices quickly, so to make sure that your workers are safe, and also the wider public. So you know, a lot has been done. And of course a lot is yet to be done, but I'd like to just thank all of you for the way that you've adjusted to the demands of 2020. We've all had to adjust, and we've got to keep barrelling on. And thank you so much for the continued invaluable work that you do, because of course without you we would not have warm homes that some of us now have to work in, and you keep us connected at this time when we need our telecommunications, quite frankly, more than ever before. And of course, providing support to all the other businesses, for example, the construction sector, so that they too can keep doing what they do. So, huge thank you from me for all of that. But also, and this is like a list of thank yous, but actually there's been quite a lot going on this year, hasn't there? Thank you for successful transition to Street Manager. It's fantastic that it got up and it got launched fully live on the 1st of July. It's been a transformational change. I think it's one of the first of many transformational changes that we can do. And I know that you've worked really, really hard over the past few years to feed in your views and to make sure that Street Manager is the best possible product that we could make and build to help the system work more effectively. Launch was a great success, and I hope it's already started to deliver the benefits that we all want. We're getting some positive feedback from people, but certainly if you have feedback at all, please do get back in touch with my officials so that we can work to make it better in the future. But it's a really good example of how the sector and the government can work together to deliver a project that makes a real difference on the ground. And of course, I promise that we will continue to do that as we get through this pandemic and we bounce back afterwards. But so as we do, the challenges that face us in recent years will of course still be there. We still have 30 million vehicles on the road again, and it will be very important to continue to manage them as best we can to reduce congestion and make sure that we don't cause delays which are not needed, because this has an impact on everybody's lives and on all local economies. So we know that congestion remains a huge problem. It hits our economy, as I've said, but also it causes additional pollution that we really just wouldn't otherwise be creating, which is also a significant negative. So tackling congestion remains a clear priority for the Department for Transport, alongside our wider environmental and decarbonisation measures. The Transport Decarbonisation Plan is taking shape right now, and that will really set out in much more detail how we're going to deal with transport's contribution to climate change, which sadly is still quite significant, and we've got to get to net zero by 2050. So what are the challenges in the streetworks sector? So alongside this, we've got to deal with the number of street and roadworks increasing as a result of new housing developments. Now, new housing developments are good, and we've just got to make sure that we do them in a really, really effective way, and we can deliver nationwide gigabit connectivity, again, very important, as soon as possible, because we hope to achieve this by 2025. And then furthermore, there is the issue that space on roads and pavements remains at a very precious premium. Our roads were built in times that cars were not quite as large as they are now, and certainly traffic and vehicle numbers were definitely not as many as they are now. And so it's a real struggle sometimes. And there is a continuing need to plan and to manage all of the works more effectively, to find new ways that we can all work together safely on our streets, and we can improve quality of work, we can improve performance, especially in relation to reinstatements. No one likes a reinstatement that goes wrong. So I know that several industry organisations have set out plans to deal with some of these challenges, and I'd particularly like to congratulate Streetworks UK and the Joint Authorities Group, who, as HAUC UK, have recently published the latest 5-year vision for street and roadworks in the UK. So there's a 5-point plan, and it makes complete sense. We're looking at digitalisation, innovation, skills and workforce, collaboration, environment and decarbonisation. I couldn't have put it better myself. So I hope that the industry can now work together to develop an action plan to meet the ambitions set out in this vision, and I'd be very interested to see what that action plan would entail, because I'm really interested in your views on how can we bring in more innovation into the sector. The new version of the SROH was published back in May, and it comes into force as statutory guidance next April. It is there to help you introduce new materials and ways of working, so I'd be very interested to hear back from you about how we can bring in more innovation. The HAUC UK vision, it details the need for new systems and materials to be available in 5 years' time, as many of the existing ones that we use today will be outdated. Again, be very interested to hear from you about how we plan to drive this forward. I think I get a lot of information from various people about new materials. There's a lot out there. I think what we've got to do is figure out which ones are really, really good and which ones, you know, perhaps after testing prove not to be good. And I think we can do a lot of work in that area. And then also, how can you plan, manage and coordinate works more effectively with each other? Because we all know that issues caused by badly managed street works make people very cross, and local people get very cross. Those local people get in touch with their MP, and their MP then gets very, very cross with me. So I think throughout the system, the extent to which we can communicate with local communities, let them know what's coming down the track, and manage the street works as well as we can is all to the good, because it's not just about the wasted time, it's the extra pollution, it's the extra cost to the economy, it's the damages to business that rely on just-in-time logistics. Even sometimes it can impact emergency services. So there is so much more that is to benefit from making sure that street works are managed as best as they possibly can be. And we know that there's still a great deal of scope for works to be planned, managed and coordinated more effectively. And we can see this actually in some of the early national data from Street Manager, which is showing that on average around 20% of all permits requested, assessed and paid for are then cancelled by the organisation that requested them. It seems like a non-efficient use of everybody's time and money, and I'm sure we can get better at that. There must be a better way of working. So Street Manager is now there to help. We're going to have some good evidence and good data, which we'll be very, very happy to share with you. And maybe we can sort of develop sort of best practice around the data that we start seeing coming back on a nationwide basis. I think it'll be really, really helpful to help you to see if you're using the data as well as you can be. What else can we provide you? Is it changing your working practices? And what can you do to work more smartly? So, as you know, we have been implementing our own streetwork strategy to help you further. We've done the SROH, which I've already mentioned. We've got the Street Manager up and running. And we're also encouraging all local authorities to have permit schemes to improve consistency and to deliver other benefits to those needing to carry out works and to the travelling public. But I'm really pleased to say there's only a few authorities to go, and we are putting a little bit of pressure on them. And I'm expecting the remaining ones to have introduced schemes by next spring, so fingers crossed. We've also started work on the next set of improvements to legislation, and I hope that we'll have a consultation on these in the new year. We want to make sure, we want to make even more use of Street Manager for issues such as Section 58 road restrictions, and we want to look at how we can release more up-to-date data and real-time information for road users. And we, as always, we want to keep things as simple as possible, and we want to improve the inspections regime to improve quality and performance. And we also want to look at if there should be a new type of permit available for a number of minor or standard works in an area over a period of time. So we're calling this a flexi permit. So more details will be in the consultation when it's published in the new year, and I'd be very grateful if you could turn your minds to thinking about whether that would be helpful and what the pros and cons of introducing that might be. So I'm really keen to continue working with you closely in the future. It's a real strength of the sector that we actually do have a very well established, engaged and passionate streetworks industry, and we've seen in recent years that we can be much stronger when we work in partnership. When you collaborate with each other and you come and collaborate with government, we can do brilliant things. So let's look forward to 2021. It's got to be better than 2020, and a shared determination to play our part in Britain's recovery. And I really look forward to seeing you next year, if not before. Thank you all again. Good morning, everybody.
Okay, thanks, Joel. We will hang that on the website along with all the other presentations and activities over the last period, and so for those of you who want to rewatch it, there'll be an opportunity to do so. I make no comment on it at this particular stage. There are some issues that are raised in there which I intend to write back to her about, really just to give her a sense of correction and our activity. In particular, the unused permits issue, and I noticed that Julie has just written in the chat tote making the point. The majority of cancellations are down to customers not being ready for their services. Not sure we can reduce this. Maybe flex permits can help, but I think there are a welter of reasons why 20% of permits are not used, and it's probably worth us explaining that. It's more a pointing to the truth. I think also, I know Alan Rainford's on the call. I think you know, it's worth us actually putting a marker down and writing back about, even though we've probably said it ad nauseum, how we can bring more innovation to SRH and deal with that. And I will be going back to her and explaining that, you know, how we will be delineating the action plan for the vision, which she's suitably enthusiastic about, which is a good thing. And the last point, she talked about the New Year consultation on those policy issues. We talk a little bit more about those at 2 o'clock this afternoon in the policy workshop, as I mentioned earlier on, for those of you who weren't on that earlier on. If there are any other particular comments you want to throw in the chat and just air, then do so. If you'd rather email me separately and talk through anything that's just been discussed on there, then please do so. We don't have a DFT colleague to address any of the points live, as it were, that she's made, or any points or questions you have. But if there are any additional things for us to go back just to correct, then that's fine. I just read out for Alison Williams' point, for those of you who haven't got it to hand on your iPads or iPhones if you're watching it remotely. Alison wrote Baroness Vere's comments on consistency. This is really relevant to innovation and permit schemes. Local authorities are allowed to make local decisions which are a barrier to consistency, especially permit schemes that SRH innovation. Reducing localism could help us here. Aye, Alison. Good point, well made. All right, well, look, great to have you all on board. I know that's not exactly the rip-roaring session that we would have hoped by a really interactive discussion with Baroness Vere, but it clearly lays out and states her position, enthusiasm, importance for our maintaining warm and connected homes with running water as well, may I point out as well. Careless of her to neglect that life-giving and life-saving activity as well. All right, well, look, see those of you who can make it at 11 o'clock this morning for our energy and skills, skills and training aspects, and look forward to catching up with you a little bit later on this morning. Thanks very much, and cheerio for now. Bye-bye.